It's an interesting point that's always raised, certainly when we deliver any training courses or in consultation, that people are asking for either interrogation or interview training. And I think if you look at the definitions of either, they are very similar in relation to interviewing being a conversation with a purpose, interrogation, asking questions to seek information over long periods of time. If you look on Google, you'll see the different definitions that are similar. I think the interesting thing is the connotations between either word when you talk about interviewing to interrogation, and what images and what thoughts are conjured up by those two words. Certainly I'm of the train of thought in relation to investigative interviewing. We'll use science and academic empiric research behind interviewing rather than interrogation. I think what's interesting in terms of seeing and evaluating thousands of interviews and seeing people that either become aggressive during interviews or very formal or very abrupt, if we look at the psychology behind why people are aggressive and some of the training that is in the market to teach people to be, let's say, more formal, more abrupt with people, a particular theory that we look at, and it's a simple theory, is Batari's box. And Batari's was a psychologist who studied human behavior and interaction, and quite simply put, he looked at your attitude and your behavior impacting on the person that you're interacting with. So your attitude and behavior will impact on the person that you're interacting with and their attitude and behavior towards you. So if they're being aggressive, it's more likely the person will respond being aggressive back to you. And what you'll get is that box, or as Batari explains, it's a vicious cycle where people will either, at some point during the interview, actually either stop the cycle, or I've seen it within interviews, people coming to blows. Certainly our approach and the training we deliver is much more of a conversational approach, much more of a scientific approach to actually engage and teach people to talk, because that's the name of the game, is gathering information from people. Building rapport is crucial within any interview. Certainly the process and the time spent investing properly in building rapport with an interviewee is going to reap rewards during the actual interview, the information provided. And I think generally a lot of interviewers don't invest the time that they should potentially in building rapport. And that might be some basic things about the previous interview experience, contact, preferred names, talking about the weather, anything that might not even be related to the actual interview. There's extensive studies done by Professor Ray Ball, Becky Milne, in relation to building rapport within interviews, and a number of interviews that were researched that people didn't invest the time they should have within rapport building. Certainly within the PEACE framework there is an engage and explain phase, and it's often something that we'll train extensively about how you build rapport, but also how you teach people to talk, because a lot of interviewees, certainly witnesses, do not know what you're expecting as an interviewer. So you have to explain the detail that you needed when you're asking certain questions to be able to then have an understanding of what the information that you needed. So investment at the front end in rapport building reaps rewards during the interview itself. Obviously being a big advocate of peace and the model or the framework, as I will refer it to, I think it's a whole ethos and the approach behind it. Things are no different in the UK if you look back to the 80s and when peace was introduced in the 90s, about the change of culture that I mentioned before confession culture. Certainly within peace, if you look at the principles of peace, we're trying to establish the truth, we're trying to act fairly, transparently, we're approaching things with an investigative mindset, with an open mind. Everything is stood, for scrutiny later down the line and people being aware of. It's a product for court. But if I can encapsulate it, it's about obtaining complete, accurate, reliable information within the interview. You can't be getting complete, reliable, accurate information, checkable facts. that you as an investigator can systematically check the internal and external validity of the information that you gather. And certainly studies will show if you can gain 30 to 50% more information within an interview using the PEACE framework, that is going to give you a lot more checkable facts. It's going to help you in any investigation.